tragedy haunts this quiet frame as Nicholas and Stephanie, who miraculously survived the Columbine massacre in 1999, were cruelly murdered less than a year later, leaving behind a community shattered by a lingering and relentless grief. A solitary British soldier kneels in the dust of Gallipoli in 1915, honoring a fallen friend amidst the brutal chaos of war, proving that even in the darkest conflicts, human loyalty remains an unbreakable bond. Captured in the lush Amazonas of 1997, 22-year-old Penha Goes embodies the enduring spirit of the Yanomami tribe, remaining a steadfast guardian of her ancestral village and culture when revisited decades later by the same photographer. Armed with a camera and a heavy heart, Lewis Hine traversed the early 20th century United States to expose the grueling reality of child labor, sparking a national movement that eventually rescued thousands from dangerous factories. In the midst of the 1953 Korean conflict, a tiny 2-week-old kitten named Miss Hap finds comfort and survival through a glass dropper, tenderly fed by a Marine sergeant who refused to abandon a helpless soul. Nature reveals its raw and terrifying electricity in 1882, marking the very first time a camera successfully froze a jagged bolt of lightning, forever changing how humanity visualizes the sudden power of a summer storm. Standing on the edge of the unknown in 1967, 19-year-old Helmut Schmuck prepares for his first jump into the Vietnam jungle, his youthful face masking the immense weight of the perilous mission that lies ahead. Amidst the confusion of the 2003 Iraq invasion, a compassionate Navy corpsman cradles a frightened child whose family was caught in the crossfire, highlighting a rare moment of humanity surfacing within the brutal theater of war. The vibrant energy of 1978 brought us the cinematic classic Grease, though audiences today still laugh at the impossible Hollywood magic required to believe these clearly grown men were actually just average students in high school. A devastating press leak in 1943 led to the tragic loss of 800 American sailors after a congressman carelessly revealed why Japanese depth charges were failing, proving that in wartime, loose lips truly kill. Chilling and calculated, the monster Israel Keyes staged a horrific photograph of a deceased young woman in 2012 to deceive her family, using a newspaper and sewing needles to create a nightmare of unimaginable cruelty. After decades of forced isolation following a tragic 1941 lobotomy, Rosemary Kennedy finally found peace in 2005, leaving behind a somber legacy that eventually forced the world to rethink the treatment of those with disabilities. Sacrificed to protect a powerful political image, Rosemary Kennedy spent 60 years in a Wisconsin institution before passing away in 2005, a victim of her father's fear and a primitive medical procedure that failed. From the shadows of the wings in 1963, a young Carrie Fisher watches her mother Debbie Reynolds perform, a tender and prophetic moment capturing the beginning of a life lived entirely within the glow of Hollywood. The fashion world mourned a legend in 1957 as a young Yves Saint Laurent stood somberly at the funeral of Christian Dior, unknowingly preparing to step out from the shadows and define the future of style. Three young friends leaned together for a final photograph in 1943, their smiles hiding the heavy uncertainty of the global conflict they were about to enter, leaving their youth behind on the shores of home. Defying gravity and convention on a Chicago rooftop in 1926, two daring flappers danced the Charleston, perfectly capturing the rebellious spirit and soaring liberation that defined the jazz age before the world began to change. Engineers appear like tiny specks inside the massive steel pipes of the Hoover Dam in 1935, a testament to the staggering scale of human ambition and the industrial might required to tame the mighty Colorado River. Wandering through the landscape of 1897, a nomadic storyteller carries his entire world upon his back, preserving the ancient oral traditions of his people while traveling through a world that was rapidly beginning to modernize. In the autumn of 1896, Tsar Nicholas II and Alexandra present their young daughter Olga to Queen Victoria at Balmoral, a rare moment of royal domesticity before the tides of revolution eventually swept their dynasty. Amidst the dust of Addis Ababa in 1991, a young boy stands before a fallen statue of Lenin, witnessing the literal collapse of an empire as Ethiopia turned a page toward an uncertain and new future. High above the slopes of Sun Valley in 1947, 15-year-old Andrea Mead practices with fierce determination, carving a path through the snow that would eventually lead her to become a legendary Olympic gold medal winner. Tired and covered in the grime of the 1944 Pacific Campaign, a weary Marine finds a moment of respite to drink from his canteen, capturing the sheer exhaustion of the brutal battle for Saipan. With a steady hand and an artist's eye, George Burchett inks a delicate design onto a client's thigh in 1930, continuing his legacy as a legendary tattooist who transformed skin into a permanent canvas. The cobblestone streets of 1930s Paris come alive at night through the lens of Versailles, revealing a world of deep shadows and soft light where every corner seems to whisper a secret of the city. In the grim aftermath of 1865, the conspirators behind the Lincoln assassination sit in heavy silence, their faces captured by Alexander Gardner just moments before they face the final judgment of a grieving and broken nation. Standing nearly 9 feet tall, Robert Wadlow towers over the world in this remarkable record of human history, a gentle giant whose incredible stature made him a household name before his life ended far too soon. In a quiet moment of fatherhood during the height of grunge in 1992, Kurt Cobain cradles his infant daughter, offering a rare glimpse into the tender and private world behind the chaotic persona of a superstar. Floating high above the clouds in 1870, the Goddard brothers stand proudly in the gondola of their massive airship, pushing the boundaries of early flight and daring to view the world from a breathtaking new perspective. Risking everything for a moment of kindness in 1961, an East German soldier helps a young boy slip past the newly built Berlin Wall, a brave act of defiance against a barrier meant to divide families. Deep in the Egyptian desert of 1865, the colossal sculpture of Ramesses II at Abu Simbel stares across the sands, a silent and ancient sentinel of a vanished empire that continues to awe the modern world. As the sun set on a war-torn Europe in 1945, the world erupted in celebration for Victory Day, yet many stood in silent reflection for the millions lost during the horrors of the global conflict. Against the timeless backdrop of the Great Sphinx in 1961, Louis Armstrong plays a soulful melody for his wife Lucille, blending the sounds of American jazz with the ancient wonders of Egypt in perfect harmony. Towering over the rooftops of 1880s Paris, the copper skin of Lady Liberty stands tall before being dismantled and shipped across the Atlantic, a monumental gift of friendship that would soon define the very horizon of New York. Navigating the bustling, narrow streets of 1935 Tokyo, a determined delivery man balances an impossible tower of bowls on his bicycle, demonstrating the incredible skill and daily hustle of a city rapidly moving toward the modern era. Amidst the tangled wires and glowing props of 1984, the cast of Ghostbusters shares a laugh on set, unaware they were creating a supernatural comedy masterpiece that would capture the imagination of audiences for decades to come. Returning to the silent, empty attic in 1960, a grieving Otto Frank stands as the sole survivor of his family. In his presence, a haunting reminder of the vibrant life and world-famous diary that his daughter Anne left behind. The Twin Towers of the World Trade Center glow peacefully against the New York City skyline on September 10, 2001, capturing the final evening of a world that was about to be irrevocably changed by the following morning. Smoke and sorrow hang over the hallowed grounds of Lower Manhattan on September 27, 2001, as recovery crews work tirelessly amidst the jagged steel remnants of a tragedy that united a nation in profound and lasting grief. Looking like a visitor from another planet, a diver tests a heavy ironclad suit in 1907, featuring early electric charging and pressure systems designed to conquer the crushing depths of the ocean's most mysterious and dark frontiers. The Earth buckled and highways collapsed when a massive magnitude 6.7 earthquake struck Northridge in 1994, leaving Southern California to pick up the pieces after a terrifying morning that reshaped the region's landscape and building codes. With her sails furled and history etched into her timber, the USS Constitution sits proudly in Boston Harbor in 1977. On serving as a floating monument to the enduring naval strength and resilient spirit of the American Revolution. Leaning against the eerie facade of the Bates Motel in 1960, Anthony Perkins prepares to portray cinema's most famous suspense villain, forever linking his name to the chilling shower scenes and psychological thrills of the masterpiece Psycho. Long before she led the House of Representatives, a young Nancy Pelosi met President John F. Kennedy in 1961, a chance encounter that captured the early spark of a political career destined to span many historic decades. Sheltering in the cold shadows of an underground tunnel in 1945, a British woman and child wait out the terror of a London bombing, their quiet resilience embodying the spirit of a city that refused to break. A young couple huddles in the shadows of a Beijing overpass in 1989 as tanks roll through the streets, capturing a fleeting and intimate moment of human connection amidst the rising tension and uncertainty of the era. In a moment that would change the course of history forever, President Hindenburg appointed Adolf Hitler as Chancellor in 1933, marking a dark day of infamy that set the world on a path toward its greatest conflict. The majestic Pamir rounds the treacherous Cape Horn in 1949, a white sails billowing as the world's last commercial windjammer completes a final heroic era of global trade before the age of steam and oil took over. Perched precariously on a steel beam high above the streets of 1930, a construction worker helps assemble the Empire State Building, demonstrating the nerves of steel required to build the world's most iconic skyscraper during the Depression. In a rare moment of quiet intimacy away from the Hollywood cameras, Steve McQueen relaxes with his wife Neil Adams in 1961, perfectly capturing the effortless king of cool persona that made him a global icon of style. Pioneer photojournalist Stephen Laurent created a visual poem in 1937 by placing a lithe dancer beside a delicate arum lily, using the pages of Lilliput magazine to celebrate the striking similarities between human movement and botanical grace. Zipping along the pavement with a tank of fuel on his back, a commuter tests motorized roller skates in 1961, an eccentric and noisy invention that promised to revolutionize personal travel, but ultimately remained a quirky relic of history. Laughter echoes through an impoverished English neighborhood in the 1980s as children find joy on a pile of discarded mattresses, proving that imagination can turn even the simplest scrap into a boundless and magical backyard playground. Designed with a radical aerodynamic shape that mimicked a raindrop, the 1939 Schlurwagen challenged the automotive world to think differently about efficiency, though its strange appearance meant it never quite gained the popularity its engineer had hoped. Captured in 1868, a young black nanny gazes into the lens while holding her charge, a complex image reflecting the isolation of domestic service and the difficult realities faced by women navigating a post-Civil War society. Tension fills the room in 1964 as President Lyndon B. Johnson towers over Senator Richard Russell, using his famous Johnson treatment to push for the passage of the landmark Civil Rights Act against fierce political opposition. From the grainy black and white shadows of 1877 to the vivid clarity of 2026, the ancient stones of Stonehenge remain an enduring mystery, standing as silent witnesses to the passage of nearly 150 years. The McCartney family shares a quiet, sun-drenched moment at home in 1974, offering a glimpse into the private life of a musical legend who found his greatest joy in the simple company of his wife and children. Seated around a small table in 1913, three men of vastly different statures share a friendly game of cards, momentarily setting aside their lives as public spectacles to enjoy a simple moment of human companionship and leisure. On the tropical set of Dr. No in 1962, Sean Connery pauses to sign a coconut for a young fan, capturing the early days of James Bond mania and the birth of a cinematic legend in Jamaica. A chaotic web of over 5,000 wires stretches across the Stockholm sky in 1890 as the massive Telephone Tornet Tower stands as a monumental, though cluttered symbol of the world's very first steps into the telecommunications age. Lying on wooden benches in a dry schoolyard, children mimic the motions of swimming in 1922, a creative yet poignant solution for students who lacked access to water but still needed to learn life-saving skills for the future. Wearing a tiny hat and clenching a wooden pipe, a patient dog poses for a whimsical portrait in 1875, proving that the human desire to dress up our pets for a laugh is a tradition as old as photography. Breaking free from the strict decorum of the classroom, a group of teachers lets loose during a 1910 spring break, proving that the need for a holiday and a little bit of mischief is truly timeless. In the humid jungles of 1945, a powerful elephant is enlisted to help American soldiers load heavy supplies onto a transport plane, showcasing the unique and vital partnerships between humans and animals during the Second World War. Laughter and surprise fill the air at the LBJ Ranch in 1965 as the president drives his amphibious car directly into the lake, a favorite prank used to shock unsuspecting visitors during a casual afternoon tour. A German soldier finds a moment of levity during the 1940s by posing his loyal dog for a photograph, a small glimpse into the personal lives of those caught up in the vast machinery of a global war. Standing in perfect formation at Camp Gordon in 1918, over 12,000 soldiers and nurses create a massive human eagle, a stunning display of unity and patriotism as the United States prepared for the challenges of war. In a beautiful act of corporate empathy during 1939, flour mills began using colorful floral fabrics for their sacks after realizing that struggling mothers were using the empty bags to sew clothes for their growing children. Sitting amidst the rubble of the 1940s Blitz, a stout British bulldog remains a stoic guardian of his barricaded home, a furry symbol of the unwavering bulldog spirit that helped a nation endure its darkest hour. The ocean yielded its secrets in 1903 when Edward Llewellyn single-handedly landed a monstrous 425-pound black sea bass, setting a staggering world record that remains a legendary feat of individual strength and skill. Walking through the dense humidity of Vietnam in the late 1960s, a young American soldier carefully carries a litter of puppies, a tender moment of compassion providing a brief escape from the surrounding weight of war. Against the vibrant backdrop of 1947 New York, an artist carefully brings a billboard to life, capturing a young woman's likeness with a brush to sell a dream to the bustling crowds of the post-war city. Fueled by the grueling sweat of training, Muhammad Ali transformed his pain into power, proving that the willingness to suffer through the hardest hours is what eventually creates the enduring legacy of a true world champion. Bathed in the eerie glow of 1941, the Empire State Building rises like a silent titan over the New Jersey horizon, a solitary masterpiece of Art Deco architecture standing tall as the world prepared for global conflict. Held in the hushed halls of history, the silk top hat worn by Abraham Lincoln on that fateful night in 1865 remains a somber witness to a moment that changed the American trajectory forever. In a profound display of reverence, Chinese doctors bow deeply to a young boy with brain cancer, honoring his final heroic act of organ donation that granted the precious gift of life to several others. Brushes in hand, a group of women in 1942 painstakingly create vibrant propaganda posters, using their artistic talents to bolster the home front and inspire a nation united in the singular goal of achieving victory. Captured in the quiet wilderness of 1908 Minnesota, an Ojibwe woman named Ponema gazes into the lens, her serene expression preserving the dignity and deep cultural heritage of a people living in harmony with the land. Standing on the vast, windswept steppes of Kazakhstan in 1980, a lone man gazes up at the towering Soyuz rockets, appearing small against the massive industrial power that propelled the Soviet Union toward the stars. A terrifying wall of water and fire erupts over the Bikini Atoll in 1946, as a nuclear test reveals the apocalyptic power of the atomic age, forever altering our understanding of human potential and environmental destruction. Stepping out in the 1950s, a woman wears her finest dress in pearls for a simple trip to the grocery store, reflecting an era where every public outing was an opportunity for elegance and grace. In the heat of 1935 New York, a railway inspector checks for glowing hotboxes on train axles, performing a vital and dangerous task to ensure that passenger cars move safely through the city's complex iron veins. Amidst the shadows of 1940s, Dublin, just a group of children finds a playground in the city streets, their resilient laughter cutting through the hardships of the era and proving that the spirit of play is indestructible. The weight of the world falls away as a returning soldier finally scoops his daughter into his arms, a tearful and joyful reunion that thousands of families prayed for at the end of the Second World War. Under the dappled sunlight of the 1957 Netherlands, the children study at their wooden desks in an outdoor classroom, a breath of fresh air that turned the natural world into a peaceful and inspiring place for learning. The colossal copper feet and iconic torch of the Statue of Liberty sit curiously on the grass of Liberty Island in 1885, awaiting the final assembly that would soon create the world's most famous symbol. The hidden secrets of the city are revealed in 1956 as a Venetian canal is drained for cleaning exposing the ancient foundations of a floating world that has captivated travelers and poets for over 1,000 years. In the damp air of 1911 South Carolina, young Josie, Bertha, and Sophie spend their days shucking oysters, their small hands and weary faces revealing the harsh reality of childhood labor in the early industrial South. Captured in a rare color photograph from 1928, the brilliant Nikola Tesla gazes intently forward, his mind likely swirling with the revolutionary electrical theories that would eventually illuminate the modern world in ways previously unimagined. Decades before the modern Playboy lifestyle emerged, a gentleman of the late 1800s poses proudly with his fleet of rabbits, perhaps proving that the pursuit of a quirky and eccentric bachelorhood is a very old tradition. Adjusting his cap and peering into a mirror in the 1940s, a young pilot snaps a wartime selfie, a surprisingly modern gesture that bridges the decades and reminds us of the youthful faces behind the history books. A lone man navigates the foggy industrial landscape of Leeds in 1954, captured by Marc Ribot in a frame that perfectly distills the gritty, atmospheric beauty of post-war Britain's working-class heart and soul. Standing on the edge of a new life in 1925, an immigrant family gazes across the water at the rising New York skyline, their eyes filled with the heavy mix of fear and hopeful anticipation. Pedaling through the busy streets of 1930s London, a mobile librarian brings a world of stories to the public, proving that the hunger for knowledge and literature can be met even in the most crowded corners. Time seems to stand still in this century-old portrait of Lotte Cheek, whose striking features and timeless elegance suggest a modern beauty that transcends the era of the 1920s and speaks directly to us today. It is a chilling paradox to gaze at the innocent face of an infant in the late 19th century, knowing that this child would eventually grow to become one of history's most infamous and destructive dictators. Leaping into the future in 1946, a camera mounted on a captured German V-2 missile snapped the very first photograph of Earth from space, revealing the beautiful curvature of our world against the dark cosmic void. In 1907, the curious synoptic 3D device used a clever arrangement of mirrors to fool the human brain, turning flat images into deep landscapes and marking an early, fascinating chapter in the long history of virtual reality. Wrapped in traditional furs and wools, a Sami family poses in the snowy landscape of 1900 Norway, offering a rare and intimate glimpse into the unique life of the indigenous people of the High North. Grasping a massive longbow with practiced ease, a samurai of the 1860 Satsuma domain stands as a formidable warrior, representing the final generation of a legendary tradition before the rapid modernization of a changing Japan. In a bizarre 1988 standoff, the director of the Belgrade Zoo attempts to reason with an escaped chimpanzee named Sammy, using nothing but gentle persuasion to convince the primate to return to the safety of his home. Around a humble table in 1936 Iowa, the Pauley family shares a meager Christmas dinner of potatoes and cabbage, a poignant scene of dignity and quiet persistence during the height of the Great Depression. The thunderous roar of Niagara Falls fell silent in 1911 when extreme cold turned the cascading water into a frozen cathedral of ice, creating a rare and breathtaking spectacle of nature's power to completely stand still. A majestic flotilla of ships fills the New York harbor in 1976, their sails and flags celebrating 200 years of American history in a grand display of maritime pride and national unity under the sun. In the twilight of the 19th century, a young samurai poses in full traditional armor, his steady gaze reflecting the honor of a vanishing warrior class as the world around him began to move toward a new age. Towering archives within Prague Castle preserve the heavy, ancient leather volumes of history where the written word becomes a physical monument, inviting us to wander through the silent and dusty corridors of the Czech past. Deep within the chaos of 1943, this rare bird survived the heavy bombing of the Berlin Zoo by finding an unlikely sanctuary in the bathtub of a nurse during the height of the war. Capturing the effortless cool of 1977, Jack Nicholson leans back with a classic grin that defines a golden era of cinema, while the world outside is changing faster than the Hollywood elite can follow. Faced with the crushing hyperinflation of the 1920s, a desperate German woman fuels her stove with stacks of worthless currency because paper money was actually much cheaper to burn than wood or even coal. Designed by Republic Aviation in 1960, this bulky pressure suit represents a bold vision for lunar exploration where engineers race to protect the human body against the silent and deadly vacuum of the moon. The simple genius of the bendy straw is revealed in this 1837 patent drawing, showing how a humble piece of paper could forever change the way the entire world enjoys a cool and refreshing drink. Bringing the mixtape culture to the palm of your hand, the 1985 Sony Walkman allowed music lovers to copy cassettes on the go and share their favorite underground tracks with friends across the globe. Adorned in traditional jewelry and intricate fabrics, this woman of the Ouled Nail tribe represents the enduring cultural spirit of Algeria in 1905, captured through the lens of early and pioneering ethnographic travel photography. Stepping into a new era of travel, a woman proudly displays the interior of an early camper during a 1927 exhibition in London, showcasing the dream of the open road for the modern family. Racing through the streets of a century ago, these young children find pure joy behind the wheels of their pedal cars, proving that the thrill of the drive has always been a universal childhood dream. To protect delicate skin from the harsh summer sun, this full-face swimming mask from 1920 offered a strange and somewhat ghostly solution for bathers who wanted to enjoy the ocean without any tanning. Peering into a digital future that had not yet arrived, Hugo Gernsback demonstrates his bulky television goggles in 1963, marking an early and ambitious attempt at creating a personal and portable viewing experience for all. Long before they reached the world stage of politics, Bill and Hillary Clinton enjoyed a casual game of volleyball in 1975, capturing a rare moment of youthful relaxation during their early years in Arkansas. High above the New York skyline in 1930, thousands of workers risked their lives to build the Empire State Building, creating a soaring testament to human ambition during the darkest days of the Great Depression. Amidst the muddy trenches of France in 1918, a soldier releases a messenger pigeon from his tank, relying on ancient wings to carry vital information across the deadly and broken landscapes of the war. Tucked into a tiny corner of London in 1900, this shoe store claimed the title of the world's smallest shop, proving that a great business only needs a little space and a dedicated craftsman. History changed forever in 1861 when Thomas Sutton captured this image of a tartan ribbon, creating the very first color photograph and opening a vibrant new window into the way we view our world. Before he became a global icon of the silent screen, Charlie Chaplin posed for this 1916 portrait, showing the man behind the famous mustache who would soon bring laughter to millions around the planet. A massive engine hangs precariously over a Paris street after the 1895 Montparnasse derailment, where a simple brake failure turned a routine train journey into one of the most famous disasters in railway history. Imagining a world of total connectivity, this 1956 concept for the future of phones predicted a sleek and mobile lifestyle that would eventually transform the way humanity communicates across every border and every ocean. Frustrated by a shifting global economy in 1988, two American businessmen publicly destroy a Japanese car to protest the decline of domestic manufacturing as international competition reshaped the entire landscape of the automotive industry. With its intricate ironwork and mechanical precision, this 1867 Buckeye sewing machine revolutionized the domestic life of women, turning the slow task of hand-stitching into a fast and modern craft for the home. Winding through the rugged mountains of 1907, the Great Wall of China stands as a weathered stone sentinel, guarding the ancient secrets of an empire that has endured for thousands of years of history. In a heartbreaking moment from 1940, a young Canadian boy reaches out for his father as the soldier marches off to war, capturing the heavy emotional toll that global conflict takes on every family. Disappearing beneath a massive blanket of white, the houses of North Dakota were nearly buried during the historic blizzard of 1966, leaving a frozen landscape where only the rooftops hinted at the life below. Before he unlocked the mysteries of the universe, 5-year-old Albert Einstein gazed into the camera in 1884, showing no sign of the genius that would eventually redefine our understanding of time. In the cold waters of Norway in 1953, sailors worked to capture an escaped polar bear, hoping to safely transport the powerful predator and her cubs to their new home at a German zoo. Standing tall over the city of Barcelona in 1936, 17-year-old Marina Ginesta holds her rifle with quiet defiance as the Spanish Civil War begins to tear the fabric of her nation apart. Hand-stitched from durable hemp in the 1800s, on this heavy canvas sail once caught the salt spray of the open ocean, carrying brave sailors across the waves with the strength of natural fiber craftsmanship. After resting on the sea floor for over 3 centuries, the mighty Swedish warship Vasa was finally raised in Stockholm, offering a perfectly preserved glimpse into the naval power of the 17th century world. Wrapped in traditional furs against the Arctic chill, a Sami mother cares for her children in 1917 Lapland, maintaining an ancient way of life that has survived in the frozen north for generations. Breaking through the social barriers of the 1910s, this pioneering postwoman delivers the mail with pride, proving that dedication and service know no gender, even in the most traditional eras of our modern history. Gathered around a massive globe in 1872, these Boston students explore the mysteries of the physical world, learning that the Earth is a vast and interconnected place waiting to be discovered by their generation. With a bold sign and a courageous spirit, this lone protester joined the 1970 gay rights demonstration to demand equality and visibility, marking a pivotal turning point in the long struggle for human rights. The era of global aviation reached new heights in 1912 as the first flight arrived in Ceylon, bridging the distance between distant lands and forever changing the way people traveled across the vast Indian Ocean. From the golden age of comic books to the modern cinematic universe, Stan Lee spent his long life creating heroes that inspired millions, leaving behind a legacy that will truly live forever in our imagination. Captured as a prisoner of war in 1915, this German soldier stares into the lens with a weary expression that reflects the heavy toll of a global conflict that redefined the borders of Europe. High on the granite cliffs of South Dakota in 1936, workers carved the massive features of presidents into Mount Rushmore, using dynamite and chisels to shape a permanent monument to the American spirit of leadership. Clad in thick traditional parkas, these Kingikmiyut men and boys of Alaska stand together against the harsh Arctic wind between 1901 and 1906, preserving a culture deeply rooted in the frozen northern landscape. Dressed in their finest suits and elegant gowns, these young people head out for a night on the town in the early 1950s, embodying a classic style of glamour before the casual revolution. Defying the strict social conventions of the 1950s, these young rebels shared a quiet moment of defiance against the rules, proving that the spirit of youth has always sought its own path toward freedom. Under the soft glow of a street lamp in 1955, an aspiring performer finds that an audience of just one person is enough to make the music feel meaningful in the quiet of the night. Surrounded by easels and the scent of oil paint, students in this undated art class focus on capturing the beauty of the human form, continuing a timeless tradition of creative expression and artistic study. A proud member of the United States Colored Light Artillery, this soldier served with honor at Fort Leavenworth in 1864, fighting for freedom and justice during one of the most turbulent years of history. Behind the witty prose and the famous white suit, Mark Twain remains one of the most influential voices in American literature, capturing the soul of a growing nation with his sharp and insightful humor. Standing as silent guardians of the desert in 1873, the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx emerge from the shifting sands of Egypt, reminding every traveler of the incredible power of an ancient and lost civilization. In this haunting final photograph from 1933, the last known Tasmanian tiger paces its enclosure, marking the tragic end of a unique species that has now vanished forever from the face of our Earth. In a small office in 1978, a young Bill Gates and his original Microsoft team posed for a photo that captured the humble beginnings of a tech revolution that would eventually change the entire world. A young Albert Einstein poses for a portrait in 1910, just a few years after publishing the theories that would eventually shatter our traditional understanding of physics and the very nature of the universe. Rising high above the skyline of Paris, the skeletal frame of the Eiffel Tower begins to take shape, marking the birth of a global icon that would soon define the beauty of the city. Battered and exhausted on a Pittsburgh field in 1964, quarterback Y.A. Tittle kneels in the grass, capturing the raw and painful reality of an aging warrior who has given everything to the game he loves. Desperate for a way out after the 1929 stock market crash, a man tries to sell his luxury car for cash, personifying the sudden and devastating financial ruin that gripped the entire American nation. In a charming and unusual moment from 1950, a small bear cub enjoys a sweet bowl of honey at a local cafe, bringing a touch of wild wonder to the everyday lives of patrons. Captured just seconds before a joyful reunion in 1955, the anticipation on this face reminds us that the most beautiful moments in life are often the ones we spend waiting for those we love. Dressed in simple peasant attire and casual blue jeans, Princess Elizabeth and Prince Philip share a joyful and rare moment of relaxation during a 1951 hoedown in the friendly city of Ottawa. Bruised and battered after a legendary campus tradition, These Princeton sophomores proudly display the physical toll of a brutal 1893 snowball fight that tested the limits of their collegiate and youthful endurance. Through the sharp lens of Cold War satire, this 1953 Soviet caricature critiques American priorities, using bold and colorful imagery to illustrate the deep ideological divide that defined a generation of global politics. Long before he became a psychedelic rock legend, Private James Hendricks found solace in his guitar at Fort Campbell in 1962, capturing a quiet and transformative moment in the life of a soldier. In a poignant scene from the Great War, Private Laughlin whispers a final and heartbreaking farewell to his family in 1917, it representing the countless brave men who left home for the uncertain battlefields. Towing a massive scale model through the water in 1980, frogman Courtney Brown demonstrates the incredible practical effects used to bring the tragic and sunken story of the Titanic back to life on film. Breaking the myth of the stoic 19th century, these playful Victorians share a light-hearted and silly moment in the 1880s, are proving that humor and laughter have always been a fundamental part of the human experience. The repetitive and haunting face of Mussolini stares from the facade of his 1934 Rome headquarters, serving as a powerful and chilling reminder of the propaganda used to command the loyalty of an entire nation. Caught in a moment of pure emotional shock, a 1972 protester recognizes his own childhood friend behind the police visor, and highlighting the deeply personal and painful divisions that can arise during times of social unrest. Marching with determination through the streets of Brooklyn in 1940, these young women protested a restrictive dress code to demand the simple right to wear slacks, marking an early victory for personal and gender expression. Tensions reach a boiling point outside the 1968 Democratic National Convention as protesters and riot police face off in a historic confrontation that came to define the turbulent and revolutionary spirit of the 60s. With its soaring cast-iron shelves and endless rows of leather-bound books, the 1874 Cincinnati Public Library stands as a magnificent and lost cathedral of knowledge that once inspired every reader who entered its doors. Standing as a functional piece of urban history, this 1875 public urinal in Paris reflects the unique and practical architectural solutions used to maintain the sanitation of a rapidly growing and modern European capital. With their iconic hats and perfectly timed expressions, Laurel and Hardy pose for this 1932 publicity photo, capturing the enduring and silent magic of the duo that brought laughter to the entire cinematic world. Stacked high in the middle of Grand Central in 1918, a massive pyramid of captured German helmets serves as a somber and striking visual trophy representing the immense scale of the Allied victory. Smoke rings billow from USS Miami's guns during the Battle of Peleliu on September 7, 1944, each blast sending destruction toward enemy positions as American forces. One fought to secure the island's strategic airfield. Snake charmers worked their ancient craft in Benares, now Varanasi, in 1924, their hypnotic performances drawing crowds along the Ghats of Uttar Pradesh, where spirituality and spectacle have intertwined for countless centuries. A soldier from Indochina stands on the Western Front in 1917, captured in vivid autochrome by Fernand Couville. His presence a reminder that the Great War's sacrifice reached far beyond Europe's borders and touched continents. American soldiers unleash covering fire with an M60 machine gun in Vietnam in 1966, the weapon's roar echoing through jungles as they fought an enemy hidden in shadows, hoping to survive another day. Polish and Hungarian. Soldiers clasp hands at their new shared border in 1939 after Czechoslovakia's partition, a moment of false camaraderie between nations soon to be consumed by the larger war looming ahead. Soldiers from the Irish Citizen Army keep watch over Dublin during the Easter Rising in 1916, their rebellion against British rule, a defiant stand for independence that would inspire generations and reshape Ireland's destiny forever.